Well, it's time now for a look at this Friday's French newspapers with our press reviewer, Florence Villeneuve, who joins me now. Hello, Florence.
Hi, Lorna.
So we're going to start off with Corsica because a lot of the French press is reacting to new killings on the island, a French island, of course, and that's alarmed the government.
That's right. Just a reminder of what's happened. This week, a man named Jacques Nasser, who was the head of the Corsican Chamber of Commerce, he was killed on a very busy street by masked gunmen. And last week, a very high-profile defense lawyer named Antoine Solacaro was shot by two men on his way to work. Now, yesterday, the Interior Minister Manuel Valls and the Justice Minister Christiane Taubira visited Corsica, which is known as the Island of Beauty here in France, and they were there to say that enough is enough. They pledged to restore order on the island, and let's take a look at the front page of Corse Matin, a local daily in Corsica, that says that the government targets the mafia. Now, it was also on the front page of Le Monde, which says that the government shows its determination in Corsica. Now, Le Figaro points out that Valls and Taubira vowed to step up the government's presence on the island by putting in more police officers and also pumping money into the judicial system there to follow up on criminality. And there's an interesting map in Le Figaro which shows just how the island has been troubled for years by both violent separatists and organized crime groups. And here's the editorial of Le Figaro today, which likens Corsica to a trap for the government. And they say that the heart of the problem is that you have this handful of individuals, be they separatists or members of organized crime groups, that want to lay down the law on the island. And in doing so, they completely ignore the French rule of law, the rule of law of the French Republic. And according to the editorial, what's driving these groups is money. And basically nationalism, for instance, is just an excuse for trafficking and smuggling, etc. And according to Le Figaro, what's needed is a firm and uncompromising government policy. I thought there was an interesting article in Corsica, which is a Corsican weekly, which suggests to the government that a way to fight criminality in Corsica is to take example on how Italy has fought the mafia in Italy.
Okay, well, we'll see if they take up that suggestion. Meanwhile, moving to that violence in the Middle East, in Gaza, between Gaza and Israel, a lot of attention on that in the French press today.
That's right. Let's take a look at La Croix, which is the Christian newspaper today, which looks at the reasons behind this increase in violence. And they say that in their editorial that it's in these kinds of situations, it's hard to know just who started what. On the one hand, it's very clear that Israel has experienced an increase in insecurity along its borders. Also, Gaza has become increasingly armed through smuggling tunnels with its border with Egypt. But also, we're in an election period. And in the past, the government has used the security card to show that it's concerned with protecting its country. And L'Humanité, the communist newspaper, seems to think that is what is behind this increase in violence right now. Now, it's important to remember that L'Humanité is known to be a pro-Palestinian newspaper, but so that what they say is this is a pre-electoral massacre. That's what's happening in Gaza. And they say that these attacks by Israel are an obnoxious provocation on the eve of this election.
Okay, well, we're going to move back to here in France now because another story that's getting a lot of attention here is the forthcoming election of the new leader of the opposition UMP party. That is President Sarkozy's old party.
That's right. That election is going to take place on Sunday. 300,000 card-carrying UMP members are going to vote, and the two main frontrunners are François Fillon, so the former prime minister, and Jean-François Copé, who's the current leader of the UMP. Now, Le Figaro points out that there's a real fear, and this may be a surprise, but there's a real fear of voting fraud in this election. Now, since this isn't an official election, an official national election, there's no legal supervision. And also, the right, let's just say, doesn't have a great track record for transparent internal elections. Now, in Le Figaro, it points out that both the candidates and the UMP as well have put forward measures to try to avoid voting fraud. Now, that's to avoid, for instance, to have official legal representatives in voting stations where there's a little bit of a problem between the two candidates.
Okay, well, we will see what happens on Sunday, which of them come out on top. Thank you very much indeed, Florence Villeneuve, for that look at today's French papers.